Hello everyone, welcome to another little movie review that I'm doing at the end of Halloween week. For Halloween, I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite horror films. I don't really talk about things I like too much on the show because I'm not the best at it. And today we are talking about Cube.
But that's not the right cube.
The 1997 film, people wake up in a mysterious cube prison. It's known for having kind of a cult following, kind of inspiring Saw, and having two sequels, one of which is garbage and one of which exists. And apparently, I just learned, has a Japanese remake coming out this year, and apparently a coming American remake as well, called Cubed, I believe, which that's a funny title. So, what's it about? It's what I said. People wake up in a cube prison. There's different rooms on each side of the cube, and throughout various rooms there are traps. You can probably see what inspired Saw. I'm gonna spoil this movie that's almost 25 years old, so be aware of that if you haven't seen it, because I do recommend you watch it not knowing what happens. First off, I love me some movies where people are trapped in one area. The atmosphere of this movie and the set design is amazing. Granted, it's literally one set. It's just one room painted different colors or lit up different colors. It's such a perfect design, which both of the sequels fuck up. The design is so great because it's just enough color. It's not blasting you with color like the fucking second movie, but it's also grimy and grungy enough that it still feels like a prison. It's such a perfect design. Another thing to keep in mind with this movie when I talk about the set design and everything is that this was made on a tiny budget. $350,000. Now, for comparison, the first Evil Dead movie, a movie famous for being a low-budget horror movie, the budget was $400,000. So another aspect of why I love this movie so much is because it is like Evil Dead, kind of. It is a filmmaking movie. Like, just the achievement of making a whole movie with one cube set and literally nothing else is a huge achievement. So partially why I love this movie is because I want to make movies and I have no money, and this movie was made for basically no money. So like, I think it is just amazing that this film isn't complete trash. It is very 90s. It's a product of its time. The CG isn't the best. It's aged completely terribly. And some of the camera movements and editing choices scream 1997. I don't think it's a huge problem with the movie. The CG, I think, is used sparingly enough that it doesn't really bother me all that much. And the sort of 90s camera movements, but I actually do think it kind of helps build the mood of being lost in this prison that you don't know how to escape. So we meet our characters, and the great thing about the characters is that they're very easy to understand, but they're not
It's not like the characters are completely hollow and have no depth other than their archetypes. They have a little more going on, which it's not a lot, and it's not genius, but it's enough to get you to care about these characters and to have them be a little more deep than I think most movies would treat these characters.
I guess the biggest problem in this movie for many people is the acting. It's very hammy, and yeah, I agree the acting isn't great. It has issues. It was never enough to just bother me or take me out of the story the movie was telling. I think this is the only point where I'm just gonna say it didn't really bother me all that much, and I do understand if it does to some people, because I think that's really the biggest criticism people have of this movie, is that the acting is bad. I think the reason I love this film so much is the metaphor
and the atmosphere, and just seeing these characters try and escape this prison. It's just it's riveting to me.
So I was just watching a little clip to jog my memory a little bit to figure out like what to talk about next in my review, and I was just completely fucking entranced. Like I want to just watch the whole movie again now. And yeah, the acting is bad in this clip, but the script isn't like masterful or anything, but it's just such an intriguing story. I was going to just like recap all the events, that the math that goes into it. But again, I don't think I want to. I think I just want to leave it to watching the movie.
Because I feel like a lot of this movie is the experience of not knowing what's going to happen next and sort of going along for the ride. It's so great at building tension and intrigue, like I said, and yeah.
I think what makes the movie stick, with me at least, so much is that the whole point of the movie is that you never figure out what the cube is for. There's never a here's what they made the cube for scene. The closest we get is a monologue from Worth, where he admits he designed the cube's outer shell.
I was contracted to draw plans for a hollow shell. A cube.
And he speculates about what the cube is for. He speculates that whatever it was for has been forgotten, and they're just being put in the cube to put it to use, to justify its existence. Because if no one was in the cube, then it would have no purpose. And the movie's sort of nihilism towards trying to figure out what the cube is for. Spoilers, the only character who survives this movie is the only character to never once question anything about the cube. Even the fucking guy who says,
"No more talking. No more guessing. Don't even think about nothing that's not right in front of you. That's the real challenge. You gotta save yourselves from yourselves."
dies immediately after he says that. I guess I'll start wrapping this up a little bit because at this point I'm just looking more into the movie, and like I don't want this to just become a fun fact segment. Like, oh, did you know that all the characters are named after actual prisons? Like, yeah, no shit. Although I just found like videos of like how to beat the death maze in Cube. Like, what? Did you watch the fucking movie? One, they tell you. They do all the math and everything. Two, did you not get the point of like, I am very biased for this movie. I like the concept. I like movies about people stuck in a location. First off, I like movies where like paranoia makes people turn on each other. I love all this stuff, so I am very biased for this movie. But even taking that into account, I think Cube is worth a watch, even if you think it sucks, because it's still it's still an achievement to have one set with colored gels. They wanted to have 6 colors of the cube, but they couldn't fucking afford another gel panel. That's how low of a budget we're talking here. It's a filmmaking movie, and I like making films, so I like it. And not even just that, it's a very good thriller, which I love a good thriller, and it's a very good mystery, and it's a great metaphor, it's a great premise. It's just great. And I know people won't agree. There are worse things in the world than this film, like cancer or getting your butt stuck to the drainage pipe of a pool and having your intestines sucked out your anus, which is a nice Final Destination 4 reference. Clearly a much better film. I guess this did kind of boil down into it's great because I like it, but hopefully I gave you a little bit of explanation as to why I think it's such a great film. Actually, I will not wrap it up here because I have 2 sequels to talk about. Cube 2. I'm probably going to go through these quick because these fucking suck. Cube 2. Way to miss the point of the original film and have the cube look like all sleek and nice. Completely not getting the aesthetic at all, and also taking out the one aspect of the first film that most people enjoy, which is the whole math and trying to figure out how to get out of the cube. That's completely absent in this one. It's like, oh no, there's no way to figure out this cube. Well, then it just sucks. So they just wander around and die. Like, that's it. That's all that happens. Random shit just happens in this movie. And the acting is probably about on par with the first movie, but it has no charm. Like, this movie clearly has a higher budget, so it doesn't have an excuse. Cube 2 Hypercube is what I imagine Cube is to people who hate Cube. The guy who wrote that ass stuck to drainage pipe review, I don't know what he would think of Cube 2 if he thinks Cube 1 is that bad. What the fuck is the music in this scene? What the fuck? Cube 2 is such dog ass, man. It is Cube 1, but worse in every way. And they make the cardinal fucking mistake of trying to explain where the cube comes from. Because in the first movie, they don't. Because if you try to explain what the cube is for, where does it come, who made it, then you immediately open yourselves up to fucking cinema sins.
And it ruins the whole metaphor and mystique of the first movie.
Like, why did they build a cube prison instead of just building, I don't know, a fucking prison? You immediately open yourselves up. How much, how did they fucking pay to make this? Like, you open yourself up to all these stupid questions that don't matter. But the first movie avoids that because they never try and, like, it's just basically a fantasy setting. It's a very real fantasy setting, but they don't, like, have guys in suits like, ooh, you've discovered our secret operation. You just open yourself up to thinking of it in a literal way instead of a metaphorical way, which the metaphorical way is the fucking strength of the first movie. So why would you make it literal in the second movie? It's dumb. It's a terrible sequel. Cube Zero is a slight improvement. There are some neat scenes. They go back to the sort of grungy look of the original, which I appreciate. No colors, basically. There's basically no colors in the movie, which does still, they kind of miss the vibe of the original. They kind of miss the aesthetic of the original again, but it's closer, so I'm willing to forgive it a little bit, because, God. I watched Cube Zero for the first time directly after Cube 2, and I think the reason I'm in the middle about Cube Zero is because it's so much better than Cube 2. I guess, if you think Cube 1 is bad, watch Cube 2, and maybe you'll gain a bit more appreciation of the first movie. Because I legitimately did. I loved the first movie already, and then I watched Cube 2, and I just loved it a little bit more, because I was like, wow, that Cube 2 is what we could have gotten. That's what Cube 1 could have been, which, holy shit. I like how I'm talking about Cube Zero, and the first, like, couple minutes of my review has been shitting on Cube 2. God, that movie sucks. So Cube Zero, it's kind of an origin story, and again, they try and, like, give hints as to what the cube is and who runs it, and it's pointless. And the origin story of one of the characters from the original, it's not like the same character, but they're like this is how that character got into the original Cube. So a nerd is running the Cube, and then he sees... I didn't even talk about the plot of Cube 2. I just realized it, because it's bullshit. It's the same as the first movie, except there's no way to get out. And at the end, one of the characters gets out anyway, just because, I guess. God, that movie sucks. Again, I keep going back to Cube 2. I have Cube 2 on the brain. That movie is awful. I like how I said this was going to be a positive review, and a lot of it is me shitting on Cube 2. Cube Zero, a nerd is running the Cube. He's looking at the security cameras like this is going correctly. Like, I don't know. It's kind of a forgettable movie. The traps were fine. There's a couple good scenes, which cool. And then the movie ends. And it's only an hour and a half. How long was Cube 2? Okay, it was an hour and a half as well, but it felt longer. So, yeah, I guess that's Cube, I guess. There was also a movie that I felt was kind of a spiritual successor to Cube in a lot of ways. Circle from 2015, where people wake up in a circle and like have to choose who dies. I'll go over this one quickly. I watched it with Christian. We were expecting something terrible, and it wasn't like brilliant or anything, but it was good. It felt very similar to Cube, not just because it's also named after geometry, but because it's characters stuck in a location and they turn on each other, and it was very clearly made on a low budget, and the acting isn't great in either. The script isn't as strong as the original Cube, but I feel like it's kind of a spiritual successor, and I like that movie. And I just thought I'd say that. I may do a full review of Circle at some point.
Assholes! Sniffing assholes!
So I guess that's it. I talked a little bit about Cube, talked a little bit about Cube 2, God, that movie's ass, and I talked a little bit about Cube Zero, and I talked a little tiny bit about,
Squares! Let's talk about all the geometric shapes!
Yeah, I guess the first movie is one of my favorite movies because it is such a great example of low-budget filmmaking, which I love, thriller movies, and movies set in one location, and so many things I love are in and represented by Cube. Cube 2's garbage, and Cube Zero is okay. And apparently there's a Japanese remake coming out this year, which I had no idea about, and apparently it's out already, so I guess I'll try and see that if I can. I don't really know how good it will be. But for now, that's gonna be it. I've rambled for about like 30 fucking minutes or so. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah.